From the forgotten rivals of pre-ban CookieZ to an overlooked candidate for the first 1000 PP play, here are some legendary players that were lost to time. Let's dive in. When the competitive scene first started to grow, it was defined by players like Doomsday, WobbleWolf, and CookieZ. But who else was there during this era? They surely had some competition. There was a strong competitor to all of them at the time named ShaggoN. ShaggoN was a Polish player known for being able to play any mod combo. He was known as one of the best at each of them, at his prime rivaling the best players at the time. But there was one thing that made him stand out among them. You see, his rivals are, without a doubt, very good. But one thing they lacked in was flashlight. I guess CookieZ has done Symphonic Love Hidden Double Time Flashlight, but other than that the flashlight play among these three was non-existent. ShaggoN though, while competing with them, was also considered one of the best flashlight players in the game. He would get such good accuracy using flashlight that you could still find his scores from 2010 on current leaderboards. Now you may think that the only reason he even appears on the leaderboard is because flashlight gives the most multiplier out of any mod, thus putting his scores above double time plays that are more impressive. This is true and is the case for many old scores. But the thing about ShaggoN is that he didn't need flashlight to stay on leaderboards. That's right, his scores with hidden only and no mod still match the accuracy of modern scores. You can see scores from him as old as 2009 to 2010 still keeping up with the accuracy of even current top players. So imagine how he competed at the time. These achievements allowed him to get second place on the top 20 best players of 2010, behind only CookieZ, and 20th on best players of the decade. He was a top player as late as 2013, but he seemingly quit around the same time. Because he quit much earlier than the other legends, he didn't reach the similar god status. His legacy and how he was able to compete with the greatest is still remembered by those who saw him play. ShaggoN was considered one of the best flashlight players, but who was his competition? Let's look at this old forum post from 2011 asking people who is the best player at each mod combo. On almost every single reply had one name in the flashlight section: Lybydose. Lybydose was an American flashlight player who on many old maps, you can find his scores on the leaderboard from 2009 to 2010. They often stick around as the highest score flashlight play. Some of his most notable scores include a Masterpiece Flashlight FC, remaining as the only max combo FC with flashlight only, doing it in 2010. He also has a 1 miss on Dance Dance Revolution Nonstop Mega Mix, a 26-minute map. That's right, in 2011 he 1-missed a 26-minute map with flashlight. There are only 7 submitted flashlight-only scores in this map's 17-year existence. Even with a miss, Lybydose's 2011 score is still the highest accuracy with flashlight only, which comes to show that this play is really ahead of its time. Lybydose's flashlight play allowed him to get placed at number 5 of best players of 2010 and receive a lot of votes for 2011. Lybydose didn't just dominate in solo play either. He is also considered one of the greatest old mappers. He created classics from 2009 to 2011 like Immortal Smoke and Emotional Skyscraper, which are overwhelmingly loved and actively played to this day. He was also a prolific beatmap nominator, approving many actively played classics like You and Owen Was Her and Welcome to the Club. He would go inactive around 2013 and disappear. He leaves a reputation as one of the greatest early flashlight players and a great mapper who was a benchmark of quality at the time. Now to shift gears a bit, how did the speed skill set look like back then? It peaked with players like Nico, and if you watch my Japanese Mafia video, TTTL. But one player that has gone under the radar since their peak was Remilia-Scarlet, an old South Korean player who peaked in the top 10. He was well known for being one of the fastest stream players, but nowadays we just call it speed. In 2012, he was hitting up to 270 BPM streams with high accuracy that even top players struggle to do nowadays. With that, there are anecdotes of old players that he could burst 400 BPM and single tap 220 BPM, but there is no video proof of it. Regardless, he still holds high leaderboard spots on maps with over 250 BPM where he matches the accuracy of even today's top players. His speed allowed him to be voted within the top 20 best players of 2012. Another thing special about Remilia-Scarlet is that he dominated in other game modes, still having decade-old first place ranks in Taiko, Catch, and Mania. He was considered a top player in all of them, up to being considered the best Osu Mania player. Around 2013, he had to do his required military service and shortly later quit the game. But that may not be the end of his story. I found this YouTube channel named Remilia, which is owned by a South Korean player who mains DJ Max. There isn't any Osu gameplay on it, but when I joined his Discord, I saw that someone linked the Remilia-Scarlet profile back in November. From using a translator, they were seemingly talking about Remilia's tournament wins in different rhythm games, and I guess they mentioned his Osu World Cup win. So it's safe to assume this is him and he's still thriving in other rhythm games. Remilia-Scarlet was good at speed, but what about speed with a single finger? Was there someone known for single tapping in the ancient days? There's someone whose single tap is comparable to even today's fastest single tappers. A first glance at Notashy's profile shows nothing special, and even looking through it, it looks like another abandoned Osu account from a long time ago. The special part about him is on his YouTube channel, where he has some of the most insane live plays from the older days. This is him single tapping 168 BPM streams, which is equivalent to single tapping 336 BPM aim. Even Lifeline, one of the most popular single tappers, opts to alternate at that speed. The absurdity of Notashy doesn't stop there, as there's a second live play where he single taps 192 BPM bursts. That's fast enough for 384 BPM jumps. For reference, that's fast enough to DT Time to Say Goodbye, Zetsubo Plantation, and Title Screen. Well, Title Screen is 3 BPM more, but close enough. His single tap speed was something that wouldn't be rivaled for a long time. A new era was defined by the emergence of PPV2, an actual working PP system which ranked people based on their actual skill instead of leaderboard spots. It was flawed, but was good enough for people to take ranking seriously. Prominent players at the time included Rafis, HVic225, and Angelism. They all had their time at rank 1, but there was one guy who competed with all of them. Someone who has slipped through the cracks on well-known names. Ku01 was a top Japanese player who could hang with the best DT players in this era. He would peak at rank 3, only trailing behind Rafis and HVic225. For some time, he was a genuine candidate to take the rank 1 spot. He would get cool plays like Blade Dance Hit in Double Time, where he hits the hard ending part, which was something even Prime HVic struggled to do. Unfortunately, he missed on the easy part. Blade Dance wouldn't be FC'd until a year later by Emilia, and a second time another 3 years later by Andros. He wasn't just a DT aim one trick either. He has a really good play on Rubik's Cube Hit in Double Time, where he gets high accuracy on 263 BPM bursts. He tragically missed on an easy aim spot, and it would take 4 years later for Ryuke to get the first FC. If he didn't miss, he would still be up there on the leaderboard with well-known top players. Outside of his gameplay, he was also pretty influential, starting a trend that you can still see to this day. It's the MyAngel trend, where people change their Osu name to express their love for fictional 2D characters. He would be the first to do it in 2015 with the name MyAngel Enju. He would eventually lose motivation to play and quit. Though he's mostly forgotten now, he still remained as one of the greatest DT aim players who was able to keep up with the best players at the time. Ku01 was prominent in the high rankings, but if you go further down, you'll find the name ZeluaR. ZeluaR was another Japanese aim player, but was better known for his high accuracy. He was considered an underrated player for some time, but gained popularity in 2015 for his smooth aim. One of his most popular scores was when he SS'd his high score with no mod. Well, almost SS's. ZeluaR would be featured on the top 15 Japanese players of 2014 and get many votes to be on the top 20 players of 2015, though falling short. He would peak at rank 12 in September 2015 but would grow bored of the game shortly after and would disappear, making people wonder if he would come back. He eventually would come back in mid-2016 where he would become a popular Twitch streamer. He would pick up immediately where he left off, getting many impressive scores including a Hard Rock FC on Tomei LG, where he matches the accuracy of top players without Hard Rock. Through 2017, he would slowly play the game less. Every now and then he would have a pop-off, but eventually he would just quit. ZeluaR hasn't streamed in 8 years and hasn't logged into Osu for 4. He's rarely mentioned nowadays, but people still regard him as one of the most underrated aim players of this era. On a different note, how did high star passes look like back then? This era is when 9-star passes were what top players were maxing at. But what if I told you that there was a player that was so ahead of its time in terms of double time passes that it could be compared to the amount of time it took to replicate Eterna's speed scores? I'm talking about Elysion, a French top player from the 2010s who was popular for having the fastest raw aim and tapping capabilities. He would have the best combo or accuracy on double time passes. On many double time leaderboards, you'll find plays that happened in the 2020s with Elysion as the single play from nearly a decade ago. He would be put in the top 20 players in 2013 and 2014, being the fastest gameplay you could find from the early 2010s. He would stick around for some time and still hit top player level scores through the latter half of the decade. With more recent scores from 2018 to 2019, it would take multiple years for someone to match him. For example, in 2019 he got the first A-rank pass on Alternator compilation using hidden double time. The current double time leaderboard consists of known top players in high 3 digits who matched Elysion's accuracy from 6 years ago. Well, all except God himself. But still, not considering the literal best alt score in all of Osu, Elysion's score from 2019 is still keeping up with the speed of today's top players. Elysion still plays to this day but more casually. He's in the back of many older players' heads as the one who showed what modern speed will look like. Now we go into the early modern period where we see the game develop to what we see today. One of the most awaited scores going into this era was the 1000 PP play. Everyone expected either Idki, FG Sky, or Vaxate to be the one to beat it. but there was a dark horse in the competition. Someone with 0 prior PP records and wasn't even in the top 10. And in my opinion is one of the most underrated what-ifs in Osu history. DanyL is a Chilean top player who mainly farmed DT aim. He breached the top 100 in 2016 and shortly later the top 20. He would stay within the high ranks for some time, still being ranked 15 3 years later. He was good, but not 1k candidate good, as his top plays were in the 700s. That was until July. Everyone knows that the first 1k was Vaxei on Tsukanami, but what if I told you that DanyL almost hit it a week prior? That's right, DanyL was grinding Tsukanami way before Vaxei got to it. He would get plenty of promising runs, getting a 2-miss just weeks before Vaxei would do it. On July 2nd, 2019, this would happen. He would FC through the hardest aim part. Unfortunately, he would get nervous and miss on a triplet shortly after. It wasn't good enough accuracy for a 1k, but he did have prior runs that did. People would start wondering if he would be the first person to get a 1k. But only a week later, Vaxei would FC the map to get the first. With that said, there's definitely an alternate reality where the stars align and DanyL gets the first 1k. It would be such an oddity within the PP record history, let alone Osu's most iconic PP barrier break. It really makes you wonder how much more known DanyL would be within Osu's history if he continued grinding the map. But in the end, he would eventually stop grinding it and move on. He would still farm though, staying in the top 100 until 2023. He has been inactive for years now, leaving people wondering what it could have been. DanyL did great in the ranking department, but what about someone who reached high ranks simply from being that good? Enter MoeYandere, a British top player who is good in both double time speed and aim. He never played for PP. Instead, he played for number 1s by getting the first hidden double time FC on any map he liked or for the best accuracy. This earned him over 100 first place ranks and countless first DTFCs. He climbed the global leaderboard naturally, peaking at rank 25 without ever farming. For a long time, he was the highest ranked player to not have a 700 PP play. That changed in August 2019, when he received what was, at the time, the best first 700. The second DTFC on Endgame, an aim-heavy, 4-minute map, behind only Prime Vaxei. Vaxei's FC was already considered one of his greatest plays, so MoeYandere not only matching it but almost skipping 700 with it was insane. It would eventually get buffed to 800 in a 2021 rework. Yet, true to form, he didn't even care about the PP. He was just happy about the score. Shortly after, he again came close to 800 PP with the first hidden double time FC on Fallen Angel, a consistency map that few believed would be DTFC'd, let alone for a top play. By now, he was known for having some of the best top plays in the game. His most iconic score, however, was his number 1 on image material, where he got only 5 100s total. Just one of them happened during the hard part. It sits on the leaderboard to this day where its AC is only rivaled by the best speed players. MoeYandere's skill from number 1 farming earned him a spot on UK's OWC roster for multiple years, all the way to a grand finals appearance and a 2nd place finish. His only tournament badges came from his OWC performances, where he played as a great complement to Spare and Bubbleman. He continued playing for cool DT scores until his retirement in 2023. After quitting, he fulfilled his dream of moving to Japan, and by all accounts, he's thriving. It's a nice testament to how he approached Osu, as he remains as one of the greatest players to ever play just for fun. In early 2020, you may remember that the top 3 was dominated by 3 familiar players: Whitecat, Vaxei, and Alumetri. They held the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd spots respectively for 6 months straight. Whitecat and Vaxei would solidify their statuses as legends of the game. Alumetri, however, was seemingly left in the dust. He was a Russian top player who was really good at DT aim. He would rank up really fast through 2018, nearly teleporting to the top 10. There, he would fight for the rank 3 spot against Idki, Tuna, and Mika. He would eventually reach it in December 2019, where he would stay for a while, farming PP and staying ahead of everyone else. Even at rank 3 though, a lot of people disregarded him because he was a TV-size aim farmer. Some people didn't even think about him, not being able to name a single one of his scores. Even though he was a farmer in a DT1 trick, it's disingenuous to act like he didn't have any actual skill or accomplishments. Overweighted and impressive are not mutually exclusive. As in, even if he mostly played farm maps, he would get the best accuracy or best miscount on many of them, all while being insanely competitive leaderboards with many top players on them. Within that overweighted skill set, he outfarmed and outperformed everyone else in what's the most grinded aspect of the game. In the end, the only 2 people that stood in his way were the greatest players we've ever seen, and I think that deserves more recognition than it has received. Alumetri would eventually lose his rank 3 spot to Mika in June 2020 and would fall from there. He would still farm though and would remain in the top 10 until 6 months later in January 2021, where he would promptly quit farming. Today he has moved to mapping and has a good amount of ranked maps and guest diffs. Though he was overshadowed during his peak, his dedication to farming is still an integral part in Osu's ranking history and is worth remembering and respecting. I hope you learned about someone new or are reminded of someone you forgot about. Let me know who in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe as well, as you'll see my next upload as soon as it's out. That's all for this video. Bye bye.